When you look at this tenacity that you obviously have, I mean, it's part of what makes you charismatic. Where did that start? When did people first start recognizing that?
I don't know. I think it's probably attributable to my parents who have always just told me, if you want it, you've got to do it. My dad did upholstery in cars, so if you had a rip in your car seat or a chair like this, you took it to my dad. And, he and my uncle did that, the two of them basically for 40-some years. And it was never, okay, we'll get that for you. It was like, you want it? Get off your butt and earn it. And I think that kind of got me started and, started working early. But I don't know, I guess maybe in college, I was always trying to find an idea that would get me going. And even though a lot of them failed, I think that's where people truly recognized in me.
In Bloomington?
In Bloomington, yeah, that I might be an entrepreneur to be reckoned with.
One of the things I discovered setting this up and working with the people who are part of your support system, you're a pretty private guy.
Yeah.
It's almost a little ironic to your persona, but you're very private. If I were going to ask your father or your wife or people who are very, very close to you, what side of Mark do we not see? What would I hear?
That I'm quiet. That I'm pretty reserved. That there's probably two Marks, the one you see out the 48 minutes of a Mavericks game or in and around the Mavericks, who's the same guy you'll see when I play basketball or play rugby, and probably the same guy you'd see when I'm out drinking with my friends. They'll tell you that hasn't changed a whole lot, but when I have time, it's with my family, and I'm pretty chill. I'm not manic and crazy all the time like people think, and people's first impression. This weekend I was at a wedding in the Cayman Islands, and part of the activities we took our family and some other families. We all went on a boat, and the guy who ran the boat was there, and I was playing with my kids. He's like, he didn't know anything about basketball, didn't know who I was or anything, and he's like, "What's your name, Mark?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "You're pretty quiet. You don't say a whole lot." And everybody else started laughing, right? I think people see what they see of me in the media and think that's just me. And, they're not going to take a snippet like this and put it on SportsCenter. There's always cameras trained on me, and I've just learned just to disregard them and be myself. And they're all, the time I scream and the time I yell at a referee or during the game, that's what you're going to see. But what they don't know is before I bought the team and before anybody knew who I was even crazier. So this wasn't, I just bought the team and I'm putting on this big show. Or, everybody's got a place to release the tension and the energy or whatever. And I try to do it playing sports and at Mavs games. That's kind of where I let go.
Well, speaking of the Mavs, what do you think the difference is between a good coach and a great coach?
It's interesting. It's a great question, because the hardest thing to do, I've learned now that I'm on my third coach in 10 years, is to hire a coach. And the best qualities of a coach is probably the ability to relate to, motivate, and coach with the X's and O's the players you happen to have on your team at that point in time. We started off with Don Nelson when I got here, and he kind of had molded the team to fit his personality, but as time went on, some of the players didn't match as well, and it didn't become as good a fit. And that same thing happened with Avery, and we've tried to correct that and bring it in Rick Carlisle. So I think leadership skills, technical X&O skills, and communication skills rolled into one. And you have to be able to evolve depending on who your audience is, meaning the players on the roster, and that's very, very difficult to do.
And I don't care what the sport is, basketball, baseball, football, when you look at coaches and players and owners, who do you think did the most with the least?
You look at unsung teams in baseball. I think that's where you get to see the most with the least. When the Marlins didn't have much of a payroll and made it to the World Series. Tampa Bay making it to the World Series. We all love underdogs like that, and I think you have to give credit to their management and general managers and ownership. In basketball, it's a little bit more star-driven. You kind of know who the guy is. It's Dirk for us, and even unsung teams like Oklahoma City, you see Kevin Durant just emerging as a superstar. You know, so you kind of can see that. But what's interesting on teams that have success that I tend to note is, and I saw it with the Mavs, when you first get success, you're busting your ass. We want to get there. We want to taste what it feels like to be successful. And you see teams just go to the nth degree to get there. And then once they taste it, they want to take credit for it. And they want to enjoy it. You know, they've reached a level that people didn't expect of them. They didn't know whether they can get there themselves. They like the adulation. They like the crowd screaming their names. And sometimes that takes the edge off. And sometimes you need that edge. And I think the best leaders are ones that can keep that edge. And once people have reached successful levels, and that's not easy to do.
Well, it's not easy to manage stars.
It's not.
And you have quite a few.
Well, but it's no different than a sales force. People always ask me, what's the difference between managing a superstar in basketball? Let me just tell you, a superstar in basketball, because there's a box score and there's media watching you every day, they're going to show up every day. The superstar in your sales force is going to give you grief and let you know that he's or she is the superstar. They're going to threaten not to show up. They're going to threaten to take their, sounds familiar, right?
Yes, it does.
They're going to threaten to take their accounts with you. And that is 1,000 times harder to deal with than anybody that you can put on the basketball court. And people also talk about athletes being prima donnas or athletes being immature. Yeah, but let me just tell you, because of the media attention, dealing with even the worst of guys that we've had, the biggest knuckleheads, and we've had a few knuckleheads come through here, is nothing like dealing with, the 21-year-olds that were in Micro Solutions service department, going out and getting trashed and getting in trouble. It's just that you don't read about it in the paper, and every company's had to deal with it. They don't pay their bills, and they get divorced, and their wives are chasing after them, and they bring that to work. You have to deal with so many little dramas as an entrepreneur in any business of any size that I think it's prepared me for the Mavs to deal with personnel issues.